Hello, friends. I think I have a treat for you this month. I just finished a conversation with my friend Shuyao Kong. And as you know, normally in these interview segments, I speak to portfolio company leaders and we maybe talk a little bit about their technology, but it's often a very specific conversation about commercial use cases and commercialization in their particular fintech area in general. And this conversation was quite different. Um, Shu Yao is brilliant and has a fascinating story. And she was kind enough to share her perspective on basically what's going on in the blockchain ecosystem today and what people who are deep in it are paying attention to. So I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation. And in the interests of getting you to that conversation as soon as possible, I will turn it over to me and Shuyao. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shuyao, it's nice to see you again. Thanks so much for making the time to chat today.
Hi, Fraser. Lovely seeing you again as well. Super looking forward to talking today.
For our viewers, this is just a conversation between two friends. Please do not listen to this interview and buy or sell any cryptocurrencies. I'm a humble venture capital associate, and Shuyao is a technologist. This is not financial advice.
No, not at all.
So I've had the pleasure to get to know you through our newest team member, Kelly Shaw, who will be appearing on this program before long, I'm sure. But for those watching who do not know you yet, could you please give us a little background?
Yeah, sure. So it's my LinkedIn summary in 5 seconds. I was born and raised in China, speak Chinese. I came to the States for college. I went to Smith College. For those of you who are from the Northeast, you would have heard of it. Then when I graduated, I went to Nigeria for 2 years working with IBM. I got a bit taste of Africa. And also that's when I got into crypto because when you live in a developing country, you see how state fail to take care of its people, especially through monetary policy. Most African countries currency actually depreciate quite a lot. So that's when I realized the value of Bitcoin and lots of cryptos. And then after 2 years stint in Nigeria, I moved to the Middle East. I lived in Dubai for 3 years, 2 of which were with IBM. My last year was with Consensus, a blockchain startup or a crypto startup, I would say, crypto startup. So I was doing work for them in Middle East Africa as well as the Greater China area. Then I went to business school where I met Kelly, and then had a short stint at Brave, which is a privacy-focused browser in SF. Graduated last year and rejoined Consensus. I am in Miami right now, and there is a storm outside, so you might hear.
Well, stay safe. We're quite familiar with storms. It's been pounding us with snow here in the Northeast. And viewers, you'll understand that Shu Yao is probably our least cosmopolitan guest. She's totally not a world traveler in any sense. But I think for most of us, as we think about crypto, especially sort of watching the remarkable behavior of the markets, it's somewhat familiar, I think, to the sort of last major run up in crypto prices, obviously at a different scale, basically an order of magnitude. And I think the thing that most of us remember are the ICO projects. And I am curious to know what your take on that in terms of what makes this time different.
Yeah, sure. I still remember the days of the ICO projects where like all my friends suddenly came to me, be like, should I buy this coin? And that's when I realized that something was wrong. Thank God I haven't seen that yet in this cycle. But yeah, I think there are a few big differences between the last bull run and this bull run, and all in the positive sense. I think first and foremost is the role of institutions. Probably all of you guys have heard of MicroStrategy and Elon Musk buying Bitcoin as part of their treasury management. And then you have, companies like Square and PayPal, even Venmo, right, are about to offer crypto purchase. MasterCard, I think last week just announced that they will use crypto payment rail largely in stable coins, but still, tremendously positive news. And lastly, during my work, I keep hearing, family offices and high net worth individuals who are really looking to use crypto to diversify their portfolio. So I think institutions really legitimize crypto in this bull market compared to the last round. It was, largely driven by retail, was going crazy. And the second factor I think that's different is the actual use cases. A lot of you probably have heard of the word DeFi, decentralized finance. We're seeing use cases in gaming, in networks, in identity, and many others that are still being explored. I think the difference in terms of use case in this cycle compared to last one was that the last one in 2017, everywhere you go, people would ask you, can I put this on the blockchain? Even though it's something that shouldn't be based on blockchain. And then you have large technology companies who really just turn their database into a blockchain network in order to sell their cloud service. We're seeing in the news where IBM is making a big is kind of leaving the blockchain space. It's really because I think the value proposition from enterprise that everything should be put on a blockchain is a false one. So in this cycle, we're seeing use cases that's fundamentally financially driven, as fundamentally using crypto economics, that's fundamentally using token. Compared to before, we're just creating something in the physical world, but digitalize them and put them on the blockchain. I think the third one is in 2017, we're seeing all these different blockchains bubbling up, but really none of them had really a real value proposition other than Ethereum and Bitcoin. I think right now we're seeing a jargon we use in the crypto circle is multiverse. So there are these different universe of blockchains. You've got Ethereum, you've got the Polkadot, the Cosmos, you've got the what is the other one where Ethereum is based on, but so you've got all of this, and and all of them have different crypto economics. And what's more interesting is that in 2017 they would all be like, I want to kill Ethereum, and now everybody's like, okay, how do I work with Ethereum? So you're seeing all these bridges that's really built bridging assets from different blockchains into Ethereum or to or from Ethereum. So I think that's a sign of prosperity. And the last one, I promise my last point is, I think there's a big push from regulation. Is that I think before people think about crypto, it's like, oh, it's Ponzi, or it's something that normal people wouldn't do, or I don't know, the libertarians are into crypto. But now I think, for example, I'm from China and I write a column in crypto in China, and I follow up with Chinese central bank backed digital currency quite a lot. What I'm seeing there is that I think new territory is being charted now that regulators want to actively regulate and actually want to participate in this crypto thought experiment. Right? We don't know what's the end result of that. And by the way, China's central bank-backed digital currency is not even on a blockchain. But I do think it creates a lot of imagination for us to think about, okay, if in the future your stimulus check in the US, like Biden's gonna pass at 1.9 trillion, right? Like, what if you get that in as a stable coin on your phone? How would you use that? Can you earn interest on that? Can you borrow against that? Can you use it to buy something else? So I think the whole global economy is super interesting if the government participates in that. And I will stop here.
No, this is absolutely fantastic. I mean, the first 2 points you mentioned around kind of institutional adoption and the question of why exactly is a blockchain useful here, that totally resonates with us. And I think, if the question among entrepreneurs was, can this go on a blockchain? I think the killer question that me and my partners will remember asking was, why should this go on a blockchain? We certainly got pitched a lot of fairly weak ideas. And you also touched on these kind of blockchain native fintech projects. I think for a lot of us in traditional financial services, the adoption of basically bringing traditional assets on chain has been maybe slower than people anticipated. And I think there's probably a lot of fundamental reasons for that. But could you give us maybe a flavor of some of the blockchain native projects that you're tracking or you're involved with?
Yep. Um, I think it's super interesting. I like your mental framework of saying, bring traditional asset on the blockchain. And I compare to crypto native, right? I think the first one require blockchain to be just a pure technology, so that you have a proof of provenance, proof of trust, you know who gets what, you have fractional ownership and all of this. And this can be done actually quite easily using the technology itself. And once you get access to Ethereum as a settlement layer, where you have source of truth, that can be done. I think the second category, which is crypto native use cases, are what I would say like a little bit more gambling-ish at the moment. We call it real use case because I think a lot of people actually think that it gives people a different play in the financial system where they had no access to. So if I may just step back before I provide the real actual use cases, I want to provide a picture of what's really going on for the whole world in access to financial instruments. So people in the US actually we're really spoiled that we have good financial investment instruments to invest to grow our wealth. That's really not true for the rest of the world. And if you look at the word decentralized finance, the reason it's decentralized, it means that anybody can have access to that, right? So that's really a fundamental value proposition. Whereas if you have access to good financial products, well, that's becoming questionable in the developed country as well. But you might not feel the power as much. So I just want to zoom out and provide a global perspective. And then to answer your question, I think there are different ways to look at it. We call the fintech stack of DeFi. The first, the bottom layer where I would start is actually what constitutes money. So in traditional finance, where you lend, you borrow, you have dollar as a denominator, you have fiat as a denominator. Whereas in crypto, we have crypto native denominators. The value, the units value is actually not a fiat currency. So a good example would be MakerDAO's DAI. So that is a peg against dollar. It's really came out of thin air, and then anyone has a smart. Once you're onboarded into the crypto world, you can engage with it. So I think that is the power of decentralized finance, is that it's a complete shift in the paradigm. We're not talking about using fiat as a value of denomination. We're talking about something that's completely from the technology. So that's one example. The second example is I grew up in China, where my entire life my mother would say, it'd be great if we can buy US stock. Because US stock had enjoyed years of bull run. If you look at Chinese stock, it's like quite bad because China, most of the money is in the real estate market. The stock market just hasn't been performing well. So growing up, I always heard that. Whereas with DeFi, once your money is in crypto, you can create synthetic assets, right? Derivatives that allow you to participate in trading that you never have access to. Like they don't have to KYC you. I don't have to look at your passport. Like if you want to follow Tesla, if you want to gamble on like Trump and Biden election, go for it. But I think that is a crypto native power, is that anyone can participate in that game. And the last use case I would mention is Aave. So for those of you who are in crypto, Aave is a lending, borrowing protocol. And the interesting fact is that Aave actually came from the 2017 ICO craziness. So they're one of those team that actually stayed, right? So that's why I think like bubble is never a useless bubble. The good project will always stay. So they stayed and they pivoted to DeFi. And they basically allow anyone to borrow money in a flash loan without any collateral. Like you just borrow. Like, can you imagine that? I think it just destroys my whole view of what finance would look like. So yeah, those are the use cases we're seeing. I think we would likely to see more. There's the whole fintech stack. You have units of value. You have the payment stack. layer, you have the trading layer, so DEX, which is decentralized exchanges, such as Uniswap. Doesn't really require an order book. You just go and swap your token, and that's it, with very, very low slippage. And I think the DeFi stack will continue to grow, and we'll see more competition going forward. But I think it's probably the most exciting space.
Thanks so much. And the thing that I got out of that is it's very difficult to understand the appeal of DeFi when you could just become an LP in Vestigo Ventures. But if that's not the case, it's so much easier to understand. Maybe with any luck, Fund 4 or something will be tokenized, and we can have some great LPs in China. Is there anything else in the ecosystem that you're excited about? And this is a leading question because you and I have talked about this. So I'd love you to share some more of your passion focuses.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a fan of the privacy and identity space, which is why I worked for Brave. And to your audience, if you're not using Brave, please do. It's just a way better product. I think privacy is a blockchain native use case because of cryptography, and because how I think our entire modern society is skewed by people losing their data, and that's why we see misinformation and disinformation. I think as someone who wants to contribute actively or positively to society, I would like to see people getting back to their data, having control of their data, and have the choice when and why to give up their data. So privacy is I'm a huge fan. We're seeing a lot of projects going on in terms of masking people's on-chain transaction. Tornado Cash is one on Ethereum. There's other going on in other ecosystem as well. I think the goal is that, it's like in the modern financial world where you have your data that becomes your credit report, and you're being mistreated because of that. But in the crypto world, you can choose to have your own data controlled. And the second one is identity. It's quite a long shot. So I started a nonprofit called Human ID last year. Actually 2019 now, and then it's not crypto related, but again, it's the idea of we shouldn't be using a Facebook login or LinkedIn login or Google login when we're using a technology service. I think everyone should have their own identity as a form of a wallet or whatever on their phone, so that they can choose who to take their data again. And also, how do they want to be credentialized? So for example, if consensus is met in a bunch of identity solutions, but the general trend is that I should have all my credentials on my phone. So in my education, my work, my medical record, and all of that. And whatever technology solution I'm choosing to interact with, I can choose to match or give out my credential to that service provider. So I think privacy identity are something to look forward to, but I think it's a longer shot and probably less fun compared to DeFi.
Maybe less lucrative for now, but probably more important and maybe perhaps more fundamental. I am very confident that this is probably enough material to keep the viewers pondering for quite some time. This is so cool. You are one of the cooler guests I've had on the show, so I can't wait to definitely do this again in the fall. And for those of you who are not friends with Shuyao as I am, how can they learn more about you? How can they get in touch? How can they find out about what you're working on and what's going on in that mind of yours at any time?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. Search my name, I'll be there, or SK Black Dot. Don't ask me why Black Dot. It was a college project I did, and it's just stuck in my head all these years. And I am a columnist for Decrypt, which is a crypto media platform. I write weekly on crypto and just random stuff that I'm interested in. So if you want a good read, yes.
Fantastic. All right, thanks so much for sharing your time. I'm definitely looking forward to following these crazy markets, and as I mentioned, we're going to have to do a catch up in Q3. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Fraser, for having me.
See ya.
See you. Bye.